The Washington, D.C. region is home to more than 160,000 Africans, including an estimated 10,000 Sierra Leoneans and 6,000 Liberians. How has the outbreak back in Africa impacted the lives of these immigrants? Thompson, a reporter with our partner Channels TV in Lagos, Nigeria, went out to find out.
Countries such as Nigeria and Senegal may be celebrating their victory over Ebola, but Ebola is still a global challenge, not just to countries who have incidences, but even their residents and indigents, for example, Africans resident in the United States. The Washington, D.C. region is home to more than 161,000 Africans, as reported by the Census Bureau in October. Of this number, 10,000 are Sierra Leoneans and 6,000 are Liberians. This makes the area a good business location for someone like Sajo Kumar, who runs the African Grocery and Meat Market. It's a store where African food items can be purchased, and even with the fear of Ebola in the United States, Kumar suffers no loss.
The spices, only the one being bought. The rest of the meats are they produce in the United States. So far, there's no problem.
But this is not the experience of some of his customers, who are mostly Sierra Leoneans.
People think that you're back home. Maybe when you go home, you have relatives that have flown in from Africa, and then that's you pretty much, they stigmatize you as being like you carry the disease, even though you're living in the United States, and then you go to work every day.
They also have to deal with news from home.
I think about my mom, my family, my friends back home. They calling because right now I just send money back home to them and stuff like that. And then it's killing poor people back home, and we need help from the national environmental people, because our people are dying. Our people are just dying like chickens.
The United States has stepped up screening of passengers from affected West African countries as part of efforts to stop the import of Ebola cases. However, President Obama is still under pressure to place a total ban on flights from the affected countries.
Well, Thompson joins us now live in studio. Welcome once again to
Thank
Africa
you so much,
54.
Vincent.
Good report, I have to say.
Thank you.
Now, it looks like the people you spoke to, other than the shopkeeper, they express frustration, and you probably spoke to many others who you did not feature in the story today.
Yeah.
How did they say they feel about just being an African in this area at this moment?
Well, it's not a very good thing now, according to them, from their everyday experiences. People, their side talks, no handshake, hug. And even Mr. Kamara, one of the guys who spoke there, he says he's a driver, and they have a normal checkup, which they do, and he was going to the hospital when we stopped him and spoke to him. He says he was afraid because recently he hasn't been treated like others, like he used to be treated. And so now he's even going to the hospital, and he's really afraid of how he's going to be treated.
And he hasn't been to any of the affected areas. But what they're saying is, like Kamara was saying, is that people think every time you go back to your house,
yes, a family member has come back. Yeah. And people don't just travel like that, but I think it's just a mindset thing. The fear is in the air.
But the fear is actually, it feeds on ignorance, a lack of proper information. Isn't that the case?
True.
And this is something that even way back in Nigeria, the government had to deal with.
Yes, because when the Ebola first came into Nigeria, it felt like everybody you touch, you could die. So some of the things that the public had to be educated on is to know that nobody can transmit the disease except when the person is sick, actually sick and showing symptoms. And if you see somebody who is sick, you really will not go and hug or, shake or kiss such a person, But even if somebody, like if you remember Duncan, even before he died, he flew on a flight and everybody there was safe because he wasn't sick then. Yes. So I think that these little education tips are some of the things that people should know, so you don't live in fear, because the fear alone could also...
Fear becomes a disease, actually. Something else I thought you need to share with us. There are some who are not of African descent who actually visit some of these African shops. What did the shopkeeper, shop owner tell you about some of those customers who are not Africans? Are they still coming?
Yeah, he says it hasn't made any difference to his sales or to his customers. And maybe because according to him, most of his things are, they are dried, and the ones that are fresh, like the meat, he gets them here from the United States. But the other ones, the spices, they are dry, so they are safe.
Yeah.
So there's been no reaction according to him. His customers are still coming. And he's Indian, just a good businessman.
That's cool. Yes, but also the fact, I think, that for so many people, this is like an African disease right now, So sometimes people don't realize that a person from Swaziland may not have any contact with a person who has had Ebola. And that is frustrating, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Even for me as a Nigerian, yes, Nigeria is Ebola-free, but, to a lot of people outside Africa, they just say, oh, West Africa. And so you're from any country or any country in West Africa, you are trouble.
And we know West Africa has so many countries. Only 3 are affected at this time, as far as we know. Yeah, so it's necessary for people to educate themselves. Well, Ini, thanks a lot for
Thank you so
that
much,
fabulous
Vincent.
report.
Yeah.
Well, Ini Thompson of our broadcast partner, Channels TV, in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover here during the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com.